The affluent gentleman extended an invitation to his former partner for his wedding celebration. He aimed to embarrass her at the extravagant gathering, yet he was taken aback when he noticed her entrance. The former partner had a child who bore an uncanny resemblance to him. Before diving into this captivating narrative, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more tales like this. The gleam of the crystal mirror revealed Jack Thompson meticulously adjusting his Italian silk tie in his office, perched high above the bustling streets of New York City. By the age of 35, he had realized every aspiration he ever held, amassing a fortune in the billions, garnering international acclaim, and soon preparing for a wedding fit for royalty with Emily Richardson, the heiress to a vast agribusiness empire. His fingers glided across the golden envelope resting on his mahogany desk, one of 300 invitations meticulously crafted for what was sure to be the highlight of the year. Yet, one stood out to him, the letter directed to Sarah Collins, his former college girlfriend. "Do you really believe this, Jack?" inquired Thomas, his personal assistant, watching him with a hint of worry. "Nearly 6 years have passed since you last laid eyes on one another." Jack wore that familiar grin that once signaled the start of his most significant negotiations. "Certainly. Sarah needs to understand my progress. She must realize that my decision to move on was the right one." The entrepreneur reminisced about his final meeting with Sarah on a drizzly March afternoon. She pleaded with him to stay, insisting she had something crucial to share. Yet Jack was resolute. He had landed a remarkable chance to join an international investment bank, and he was determined to seize it. "Make sure it's delivered personally," he instructed, passing the envelope to Thomas. "I want to ensure she gets it." 2 weeks later, Jack found himself in his opulent mansion in the Hamptons, relishing a fine vintage when his cell phone buzzed to life. A message arrived from Thomas. "Invitation sent. She has confirmed that she will be attending." The entrepreneur grinned with contentment, envisioning the look on Sarah's face when she glimpsed his present circumstances. The event was set to take place in a magnificent castle he had secured solely for this special moment. 300 guests, hand-picked from the elite. A feast crafted by a Michelin-starred chef. Blooms flown in from Holland. Every aspect carefully orchestrated to showcase his influence and triumph. Emily stepped into the home office, the sound of her Louboutin heels resonating against the polished Italian marble floor. "Darling, we must finalize the party menu," she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. The culinary artist is poised for action. Jack nodded absent-mindedly, his mind lingering on Sarah. What might she be like? What had she accomplished in her journey? Clearly, not a great deal, given that she continued to reside in the same middle-class neighborhood where their paths had first crossed. The days preceding the wedding were a flurry of last-minute arrangements. Jack meticulously oversaw every aspect, driven by a desire to craft an extraordinary occasion, not merely for his guests, but particularly for Sarah to witness all that he had achieved in her absence. As the ceremony approached, during the last rehearsal, Emily sensed a change in her fiancé. "Your behavior is quite unusual, Jack. Has something occurred?" "Only nerves," he deceived, fiddling with his tie once more. He was unable to share with her the details about Sarah, nor could he reveal his intentions to highlight his achievements. Emily simply wouldn't grasp it. That night, isolated in his penthouse, Jack powered up his laptop and engaged in an activity he hadn't pursued in years. He scoured social media in search of Sarah. He discovered merely a standard professional profile, lacking any personal photographs. She earned her degree in education and was employed at a school. How predictable, he mused, shutting the laptop with a hint of contempt. The momentous day arrived, bathed in a glorious sunlight, as though the very elements were aligning to support Jack. Helicopters were establishing the air bridge, transporting the most distinguished guests to the castle. The media clamored at the entrance, hungry to document the entrance of stars and moguls. Jack lingered in the grand hall of the castle, his gaze fixed on the approaching guests outside the window. His tailored Italian tuxedo was flawless, just like his scheme to demonstrate to Sarah the magnificence of his life in her absence. "Mr. Thompson," Thomas announced from the doorway. The initial guests have begun to arrive at the cocktail reception. Jack nodded, his thoughts drifting to the instant Sarah would make her entrance. He had directed the reception team to notify him at once upon her arrival. He aimed to place himself in a way that would allow him to observe her response to the extravagance and grandeur of the occasion. Unbeknownst to Jack, destiny had orchestrated a far grander surprise than anything he could have ever envisioned. Sarah would certainly be present at the wedding, but she wouldn't be going solo. Her arrival was poised to turn that day into something entirely unexpected from what he had envisioned. As he meticulously adjusted his diamond cufflinks, Jack remained blissfully unaware that in just a few hours, everything he knew would be transformed forever. The carefully devised scheme to embarrass his former girlfriend was on the brink of transforming into an unforgettable lesson. The orchestra commenced its performance in the garden, heralding the beginning of the celebrations. Jack inhaled deeply, practiced his most charming smile, and readied himself for a grand entrance. The performance was on the verge of starting, yet the true display would unfold in a manner entirely unexpected from his original vision. The cocktail reception before the ceremony was lively in the castle gardens. Servers glided through the room, offering flutes of Dom Perignon champagne, as the chamber orchestra delivered a selection of classical masterpieces. Jack moved through the crowd with his signature measured smile, yet his gaze was persistently fixed on the main entrance. "Mr. Thompson," Thomas murmured in his ear during a fleeting moment of silence between greetings, "she has just arrived." Jack's heart raced immediately. He politely stepped away from the gathering of executives, finding a vantage point by the main staircase, allowing him to watch discreetly without drawing attention to himself. Sarah graced the event in an elegant navy blue dress, understated yet refined, especially when juxtaposed with the extravagant ensembles of the other guests. Her brown hair remained long, just as he recalled, but now it accentuated a more mature visage. Yet, it wasn't her looks that caused Jack to stand still. It was the tiny hand she grasped. Next to her, a young boy, perhaps 5, gazed in awe at the lavish adornments surrounding them. His green eyes, mirroring Jack's, glimmered with the same fervor they held in his youth. The gently tousled black hair, the contours of his face, and the way he knitted his brow in wonder, it felt as though he were gazing at a snapshot from his own past. "Mom, check out all these beautiful flowers," exclaimed the young child, gesturing towards the waterfalls of orchids adorning the columns. Jack sensed the breath leaving his body. His legs faltered, and he found himself leaning against one of the marble columns for support. Ideas started to coalesce in his thoughts. Sarah's firm request for him to avoid London, the exasperated efforts to reach out in the initial months following his departure, the elapsed time. "Mr. Thompson, are you okay?" inquired Thomas, observing his pallor. Jack remained silent. His gaze was locked onto the drama that was playing out before him. Sarah knelt to fix the boy's bow tie, a gesture that felt both nurturing and achingly reminiscent. How many instances like this had he overlooked? Emily walked in, glowing in her wedding dress, during what was meant to be a brief moment before the ceremony. "Darling, I just wanted to check out the decorations and—" She halted as she caught sight of her fiancé's troubled face. "Jack, what seems to be the issue?" Yet he hardly registered her words. Sarah's eyes locked onto Jack's, a moment suspended in time after 6 long years apart. Her eyes held no trace of anger, as he had anticipated. Instead, they radiated a calmness that unsettled him even further. "Who is that young man?" inquired Emily, trailing behind her fiancé's unwavering stare. Before Jack could respond, the little one stumbled on one of the staircase steps. Without thinking, Jack shifted toward him, but Sarah was faster, stepping in to support her son. "Be careful, Ethan," she said with a gentle sweetness, and the name struck Jack like a blow to the gut. Ethan shared the name of his grandfather, the man who had nurtured him and whom he had always held in profound esteem. Emily watched the scene unfold, her suspicion deepening with each passing moment. "Jack, are you familiar with that woman?" The question lingered as Ethan, having regained his balance, fixed his gaze on Jack. The boy's pure smile, reminiscent of his own, caused a pang in his heart. "Mom, who is that person?" The innocent voice resonated through the corridor, drawing the attention of intrigued onlookers from the surrounding crowd. Sarah paused briefly before responding, her tone steady yet resolute. "He's the groom, Ethan, the one in charge of the celebration." Jack advanced, step by step, as though an unseen power drew him closer to the pair. The moment he caught sight of that tiny reflection of himself, his schemes for humiliation and revenge evaporated into thin air. "Sarah," his voice emerged with a raspy quality, barely above a whisper. "Hello, Jack," she replied, her poise effortlessly captivating him. "Congratulations on the wedding." Emily, sensing an unease in the air, moved to stand beside her fiancé, her wedding dress trailing gracefully over the polished marble floor. "Jack, are you going to make the introductions?" As the guests quieted, a palpable tension filled the air, suggesting that they were on the brink of experiencing something remarkable. The orchestra persisted in its performance, yet it felt remote, akin to a dreamlike score accompanying the scene that was unfolding. Ethan, unaware of the escalating tension, released Sarah's hand and moved a few steps closer to Jack. His green eyes locked onto the matching gaze of the businessman. "Your castle is truly magnificent," he remarked, his words imbued with the straightforwardness that defined Jack, as he felt tears welling up in his eyes for the first time in years. Everything he had built, every triumph and fortune amassed, felt utterly insignificant when confronted with the presence of that tiny life that shared his lineage. The meticulously planned dream wedding was on the verge of transforming into something entirely unexpected. For the first time in his adult life, Jack Thompson found himself devoid of control over the situation, and surprisingly, he was content with that. The grand hall of the castle appeared to whirl around Jack as he observed Ethan making his way toward him. Emily, sensing that something was amiss, clutched his arm firmly. "Jack, I need an explanation," she murmured through gritted teeth, holding on to her meticulously crafted social smile. With keen awareness, Thomas subtly guided the nearest guests toward the garden, where the cocktail reception was in full swing. The orchestra's music fortuitously swelled in intensity, crafting a sonic veil for the drama that was about to unfold. "You have the same eyes as me?" Ethan exclaimed, his words filled with the unfiltered truth that only a child can express, as he stood right in front of Jack. Emily stifled a gasp, the realization dawning on her, her flawless makeup for the wedding photos now seeming to drain from her face. "Sarah," Jack finally managed to express, his voice quivering just a bit, "we need to have a conversation." "Now is not the time," she said with conviction, stepping closer to grasp her son's hand. "You have a wedding to perform." "No," the word slipped from Jack's mouth with a conviction that caught him off guard. "Now is precisely the moment." Emily let go of his arm as if it had scalded her. "What do you mean, this is the moment?" "Jack, there are 300 guests eagerly anticipating our wedding." "Thomas," Jack called, his gaze fixed on Ethan, "please escort Emily to the castle office and request more champagne for the guests." "You can't be serious," Emily protested, but Thomas was already guiding her away by the arm, murmuring something about discretion and scandals. Sarah took in her surroundings with a serene composure that could only come from the experiences of years spent as a single mother. "Ethan, darling, why don't you accompany Aunt Jessica to admire the peacocks in the garden?" A woman who had been subtly situated a few meters back, seemingly a friend of Sarah's, stepped forward and offered her hand to Ethan. "But, Mom," the boy started, his eyes alight with curiosity about Jack. "Just for a little while, son. Mommy needs to speak with Mr. Thompson." Once they were finally alone in the hallway, the silence hung heavily between them. Jack sensed his heart pounding fiercely, convinced that Sarah could hear it echoing in the silence. "Why didn't you ever share that with me?" was the initial inquiry he succeeded in articulating. Sarah emitted a dry, humorless chuckle. "Share with you? I made an effort, Jack. In the weeks leading up to your departure, I struggled to share the news of my pregnancy with you. but your attention was consumed by your exciting opportunity in London, leaving little room for my words to reach you. You might have pressed the issue. You could have pleaded more, degraded myself further. She interrupted, and for the first time, her composure faltered just a bit. You made it abundantly clear that your career took precedence over everything we shared. Jack raked his fingers through his hair, disrupting the meticulously arranged style meant for the wedding photos. Visions of those final moments before his departure surged through his thoughts. Sarah attempts to engage in conversation, but he is perpetually occupied with meetings, paperwork, and preparations. Once you were gone, she went on, her tone gentler now, I made attempts to reach out to you. Communications, correspondence, notifications. You've updated all your contacts. Your assistant mentioned that you were occupied and unable to respond at that moment. I was unaware. I never envisioned. Naturally, that thought never crossed your mind, Jack. The empire you were so focused on constructing overshadowed the reality that you had abandoned far more than just a college girlfriend. The word struck him with pinpoint accuracy. Each choice he had made, every rung he had ascended on his journey to achievement, now felt hollow and insignificant in light of the discovery that he was a father. Ethan? He articulated the name with a sense of curiosity. Is he aware of my existence? Sarah shook her head in disbelief. He is aware of his father's existence, yet the identity remains a mystery to him. I never intended to deceive him, yet I couldn't bear the thought of him growing up with a sense of abandonment. I must make this right, Jack asserted, a fresh resolve evident in his tone. I want to be involved in his life. And what are your plans for that? By entering into a union with another woman? Carrying on with your existence as though nothing has transpired? The mention of the wedding caused Jack to glance at the door through which Emily had exited. The wedding he had always envisioned, the highlight of the year, now felt like a distant memory, a chapter that had closed in a life that was no longer his own. No, he replied with conviction. I will choose the path of integrity. After a lengthy period, I have decided to take the correct path. The increasing whispers from the gardens suggested that the guests were starting to feel uneasy. The appointed hour for the ceremony drew near, and the groom's extended absence was certainly felt by all. Jack, however, stayed still, his gaze locked on the window that framed the garden, where he watched Ethan frolicking near the peacocks. He has a fondness for animals, Sarah remarked gently, tracking his gaze. He aspires to be a veterinarian when he grows up. Jack felt a pang in his chest. How many dreams, how many small revelations of his son had he overlooked? What is his performance like in school? He inquired, eager to learn more about the boy. Smart, inquisitive, and determined. Sarah offered a faint smile. Much like you at that age, Thomas emerged in the hall, his usually stoic demeanor now unmistakably anxious. Miss Emily Thompson requests your presence. The guests are beginning to inquire. Jack squared his shoulders, resolving to take a step that would irrevocably alter the trajectory of many lives. Please assemble the groomsmen, along with Emily's parents and my own, in the library. As Thomas departed to fulfill his instructions, Jack shifted his gaze to Sarah. Would you mind staying with Ethan a bit longer? I must find a solution to this. Sarah nodded, her expression unreadable. Our intention was never to create any issues, Jack. If you want, we can leave. No, he responded swiftly, a hint of urgency in his voice. I kindly ask you to remain. I have a lot of things that need fixing. The grand library of the castle, adorned with towering mahogany bookcases and sparkling crystal chandeliers, quickly became a gathering place for the most distinguished guests of the ceremony. Emily perched stiffly in a plush armchair, her parents looming beside her like sentinels. Jack's parents, Robert and Grace Thompson, shared anxious looks. Hey, what's happening, kiddo? Inquired Grace, observing the troubled look on Jack's face. Jack inhaled deeply, meeting the gaze of everyone in the room. The wedding is cancelled. Instantly, chaos erupted. Emily leaped to her feet, the fabric of her wedding dress whispering as it moved. Have you lost your mind? She exclaimed. You can't just call off a $3 million wedding like that. I can and I will, he responded, maintaining a composure he didn't truly possess. I just discovered that I have a son. The stillness that ensued was overwhelming. Grace covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes filled with astonishment. Robert, usually so composed, allowed himself to sink heavily into a nearby chair. A child of my own? Stammered Emily's mother. Could you clarify what you mean? Sarah, my former college girlfriend, has arrived with our son. Ethan is 5 years old, and I only learned of his existence today. And you're going to accept that so easily, without any doubt. Emily's father confronted, his face flushed with fury. Clearly, this is someone after your wealth. Just observe the boy, Jack responded, his tone revealing an unexpected depth of feeling that caught everyone off guard. He mirrors me perfectly. Moreover, I am familiar with Sarah. She had no interest in wealth. Emily, who had been quiet since the first surprise, suddenly burst into a wild laugh. Is that all there is? 6 years of a relationship discarded due to an ex suddenly appearing with a claimed child? Excuse me? Jack started to speak, but she cut him off. Absolutely not. Don't even think about calling me Em now. Can you even fathom the level of humiliation this will bring? What about the magazines and the newspaper? Thomas is already crafting a statement, Jack interjected. We'll state that the cancellation was due to personal matters and request some space. Space? Emily's father erupted. You might find yourself in a tough spot if legal action is taken for the damages and emotional turmoil. I'll cover all the wedding expenses, Jack asserted, and I'll ensure everyone involved receives financial compensation. But I can't go through with this, not now. Grace stepped closer to her son, her hand softly resting on his arm. Where could he be? Where has my grandson gone? The term grandson appeared to stir a reaction in all those gathered. The truth of the matter was starting to dawn on me. The cancellation of the wedding marked not merely an end, but the beginning of a family's journey back to one another. Within the gardens, Jack responded, and mother. He's incredible. Emily suddenly rose, yanking the veil from her head. Excellent. Everyone remains with your joyful new family. I'm leaving here. Her parents trailed behind her, casting seething looks at Jack as they exited the library. Thomas arrived shortly thereafter, holding his tablet. Sir, what would you like us to do regarding the guests? Jack glanced at his parents, who were still grappling with the news, and then turned his gaze to the library window, where he spotted Sarah and Ethan strolling through the garden, surrounded by blooming flowers. Speak honestly, he replied. I must reveal that I've uncovered something that has transformed my existence, and I cannot move forward with the wedding while being untrue to myself and those around me. The announcement of the wedding's cancellation swept through the castle with astonishing speed. The guests, caught between shock and barely concealed curiosity, started to scatter, as Thomas's team quietly managed the logistics of wrapping up the event. Jack stood in the back garden, watching from a distance as his parents greeted Ethan. Grace knelt on the grass, indifferent to her party dress, as her grandson excitedly presented a peacock feather he had discovered. He has your smile, Robert remarked, standing beside his son, and those same inquisitive eyes you had when you were young. Dad? Jack paused, his voice thick with emotion. How could I have wasted so much time? Robert rested his hand gently on his son's shoulder. The crucial aspect is what actions you will take moving forward. Sarah watched the unfolding scene from a secure distance, her feelings meticulously shielded behind an impassive facade. As Jack drew near, he observed a subtle tremor in her hands. Your parents were truly wonderful individuals, she remarked gently. Ethan deserves to know them. Sarah? Jack started, weighing his words thoughtfully. I realize I have no right to ask this, but could I be involved in his life? She observed him intently for a prolonged moment before responding. This won't be easy, Jack. Ethan follows a well-defined routine, leading a structured life, and I cannot let him face any harm. I completely understand, he responded promptly. We can proceed at a pace that you feel is most suitable. Simply, just don't keep me away from him, please." Before Sarah could reply, Ethan dashed toward them, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Mother, Mother, Grandma Grace mentioned that she has a dog named Max. Will I have the chance to see him one day?" Sarah cast a curious glance at Jack, who clarified, "It's a golden retriever I adopted 2 years ago. He resides at my parents' place since my apartment has a no-pets policy." "Max is a great name," Ethan exclaimed. "Have you heard that in Norse mythology, Thor is recognized as the god of thunder?" Jack beamed with a sense of pride. "Are you a fan of mythology?" "He consumes every book he encounters," Sarah said, gently stroking her son's hair, "particularly regarding creatures and timeless tales." Grace stepped closer to the gathering, her gaze still shimmering with feeling. "Sarah, my dear, I realize this is quite unexpected, but we would be delighted to have you join us for lunch at our home tomorrow." "Just family," Sarah said, her voice trailing off as she glanced at Ethan, who was nearly bouncing with anticipation at the thought of meeting Max. "I'm not sure if it's the right time, given everything that's happened." "Please, Mom," Ethan pleaded. "I really want to meet Max." Jack watched the exchange, feeling a tightness in his chest. It was both peculiar and delightful to witness his son engaging with his parents, as though they had shared a lifetime of memories. "I assure you, it will be nothing more than a family lunch," Grace promised. "Robert will prepare that barbecue that only he knows how to master, and Ethan can entertain Max in the garden." Sarah glanced at Jack, who wore a hopeful yet restrained expression. "Very well," she eventually conceded, "but we must set some definite boundaries." "Absolutely, absolutely," Grace responded with eagerness. "Do whatever you think is best." As Ethan reveled in the excitement of meeting Max, Jack quietly led Sarah away for a moment of privacy. "I appreciate this. I realize I may not be worthy of this opportunity." "This isn't about you," she responded with conviction. "My motivation is Ethan. He has a right to understand his family, his background." "Still," Jack asserted, "I assure you I won't let you down." "Not again." Thomas moved closer, subtly interrupting the exchange. "Sir Thompson, the media is beginning to assemble at the entrance. An official statement is required." Jack agreed, glancing over at Sarah. "I must address a few matters. Would you mind waiting in the library?" In that secluded space, Ethan could delve into the ancient tomes. As Jack observed Sarah and Ethan being guided by Grace into the castle, he was overwhelmed by a swirl of unfamiliar feelings. The abandoned nuptials, the looming controversy, the monetary setbacks. Nothing else felt significant when weighed against the chance to connect with his son. "Thomas," he called, straightening his shoulders, "prepare the statement, but omit any reference to Ethan or Sarah. Simply state that the cancellation was a personal choice and request respect for everyone's privacy." It was time to begin mending his errors one step at a time. The scent of barbecue wafted through the garden of the Thompson mansion on that bright Sunday afternoon. Robert concentrated intently on the grill, while Grace dashed back and forth, ensuring every detail was flawless for the arrival of her newly discovered grandson. Jack made his entrance ahead of schedule, his Porsche elegantly positioned in the circular driveway of the grand mansion. He endured a restless night, flipping through old photographs of Sarah from her college days, while delving into the intricacies of late fatherhood online. "Son," Grace called from the porch, "come help me with this table." As they arranged the plates and cutlery in the outdoor area, Max, the golden retriever, wagged his tail eagerly, sensing that special visitors were about to arrive. "Have you had a conversation with Emily?" Grace inquired with care, folding the linen napkins with precision. Jack shook his head in disbelief. "She isn't picking up my calls. Her attorney reached out to me, insisting on compensation for both moral and material damages." "And are you planning to pay?" "I will," he replied with straightforwardness. "It's the least I can do after everything." The distant rumble of a car drew Max's attention, prompting him to bark with enthusiasm. Sarah slid her unassuming Volkswagen Jetta into the space beside Jack's sleek Porsche, a juxtaposition that certainly caught the eye. Ethan burst out of the car, his gaze locking onto Max with fervor. "Hey, Mum, there he is." Sarah beamed, carefully rearranging the pie she held in her hands. She donned a modest floral dress, her hair flowing freely in the breeze, a striking contrast to the meticulously polished women who populated Jack's social scene. "Max, settle down," Jack instructed, restraining the exuberant dog who was leaping with excitement. "Ethan, would you care to take the lead in meeting him?" The young lad moved forward with care, reaching out his hand just as Sarah had instructed him. Max took a whiff of his fingers and promptly licked his face, eliciting laughter from the crowd. "He had a fondness for you?" Jack remarked, observing the bond between his son and the dog, as if they shared a long history together. The lunch unfolded with unexpected delight. Robert presented his renowned steaks, while Grace eagerly piled Ethan's plate high with an array of delightful treats. "So, my young friend," Robert started as they enjoyed their dessert, "your mother mentioned that you have a fondness for stories about animals." Ethan nodded eagerly, his face smeared with chocolate. "I possess an entire assortment. Have you heard that giraffes sleep for just 30 minutes each day?" Jack observed in awe each expression and gesture of his son. It was remarkable how he had not only inherited his looks but also his insatiable curiosity. "Ethan," Sarah said gently, "why don't you spend some more time playing with Max while the grown-ups have their conversation?" Once the boy departed with the dog, the mood shifted to a more somber tone. Grace poured coffee for all, as Jack mustered the bravery for the discussion that awaited them. "Sarah," he started, "I want to be involved in his life. Officially, I want to register him, contribute financially, be present." "Jack," she interrupted, "it's not that simple. Ethan leads a well-defined life. He goes to a local school, surrounded by friends and a familiar routine. We could sign him up for the top school in the city," he proposed eagerly. "I can purchase a larger apartment for you nearer to here." "Enough," Sarah interrupted him decisively. "This is precisely why I never sought you out after Ethan came into the world. I don't want him growing up believing that money can fix everything." Grace softly placed her hand on Sarah's. "Dear, Jack is only trying to assist, even if it's a bit awkward." "I understand," Sarah sighed, "but I must safeguard my son. Our existence might be straightforward, yet it is genuine and filled with joy. I don't want him to turn out like I did," Jack finished, his voice heavy with remorse. The ensuing silence was palpable. In the distance, the sound of Ethan's laughter mingled with Max's playful antics. "I'm no longer that ambitious man who walked away from you, Sarah," Jack continued. "Yesterday, when I called off my wedding, I came to understand that all the accomplishments I chased pale in comparison to what I've sacrificed over the years." Sarah gazed at his face for a prolonged moment. "Show me," she finally said. "Demonstrate your transformation, not through wealth or lavish presents, but through the investment of time, commitment, and honoring the limits we set." Jack nodded solemnly. "That is all I request. An opportunity to demonstrate that I can be the father Ethan truly deserves." Robert cleared his throat, filled with emotion. "And we want to be the grandparents he deserves too." Suddenly, a crash echoed through the room, accompanied by a surprised bark that cut through the discussion. They sprang to their feet, dashing toward the sound. Hurrying towards the noise, they discovered Ethan on the garden floor, accompanied by Max, close to a shattered Chinese vase from Grace's collection. The boy's eyes glistened with tears, a reflection of his fear rather than any physical hurt. "Ethan, look!" Sarah shouted, rushing towards her son. Yet, before she could get to him, Jack had already arrived, kneeling next to the boy. "Are you all right, my friend?" I'm sorry," Ethan stuttered, his eyes wide with fear as he gazed at the broken pieces of the vase. "We were having fun when I accidentally bumped into." "It's fine, don't stress about the vase," Grace swiftly interjected. "The crucial aspect is to determine if you're in pain." Jack meticulously inspected his son's arms and legs, discovering merely a minor scratch on his knee. Without a moment's hesitation, he pulled his silk handkerchief from his pocket and fashioned a makeshift bandage. "Was that vase significant?" inquired Ethan, his concern evident. "Not as important as you," Jack replied with conviction, catching everyone off guard, including himself, with the ease of his fatherly tone. Sarah took in the scene, her heart swirling with a blend of feelings. It was the first moment she witnessed Jack genuinely embracing his role as a father, prioritizing Ethan's well-being over any material possessions. "We should take care of that scratch the right way," Grace proposed, gently holding her grandson's hand. "I possess a first aid kit adorned with Avengers Band-Aids. Are you a fan of the Avengers?" As Grace led Ethan inside, Robert trailed behind, eager to share tales of Jack's childhood mishaps. Meanwhile, Sarah and Jack lingered, their eyes fixed on the scattered shards of the vase. "That vase," Sarah started, "held quite a bit of value, didn't it?" Jack gave a slight shrug. "It was a piece from the Ming Dynasty, but honestly, witnessing our son's smile holds more value than any antique." "Our son?" Sarah murmured gently. "It's the first time you've expressed yourself like that." "I apologize, I didn't intend to." "No, it's fine," she interjected. "It's simply unusual to see you in this light, and the Jack I once knew would have been livid over a shattered vase." He swept his fingers through his hair, a familiar sign of anxiety that Sarah recalled vividly from their college years. "The Jack you once knew was a fool, consumed by a fixation on status and wealth. So, what about this Jack now?" she inquired, beginning to gather the fragments. "He's making an effort," he replied, kneeling to assist her. "To Ethan. For you as well, if you allow me." Their fingers grazed each other momentarily while they gathered the pieces, igniting a familiar spark between them. Sarah swiftly pulled her hand back, yet the moment lingered in the air, impossible to ignore. Within the confines of the house, Ethan's laughter intertwined with the lively chatter of his grandparents could be heard. Max let out a few barks now and then, adding his unique notes to the family's harmonious blend. "Sarah," Jack said, his tone grave, "I understand I may not have the authority to request anything, but I would appreciate the opportunity to create a routine with Ethan, to occasionally pick him up from school. To spend some weekends together?" She paused for a moment before responding. "We can begin gradually, perhaps just one day a week after school, but there are a few stipulations." "What are they?" "First, let's avoid any costly or lavish presents. I want to ensure he doesn't link your affection to material possessions," Jack agreed. "That sounds reasonable. What more do you have?" "Next, I require you to maintain consistency. Should you vow to stand by his side, ensure you honor that commitment. Ethan has faced an abundance of letdowns in life, lacking a father figure." The words struck Jack with the force of a blow to the gut, yet he kept his poise. "I won't let him down, or you. And third," she went on, "we must reveal the truth about you being his father, but we have to choose the right moment and approach." "Whenever you feel it's the right time," he concurred. "I'll follow your lead," Ethan exclaimed as he dashed back to the garden, beaming with pride over the Iron Man Band-Aid adorning his knee. Grace followed closely, balancing a tray filled with milkshakes. "Hey, Mom!" Grandma Grace whipped up a chocolate milkshake, "just like the ones you make for me when I'm feeling down." Sarah and Jack shared a meaningful glance. Unbeknownst to him, Ethan was quietly forging bonds with his paternal family. Perhaps, just perhaps, there existed a glimmer of hope to create something fresh from the remnants of what once was, much like the broken pieces of the vase they held in their hands. In the weeks that followed, a fresh routine emerged for all. Every Wednesday, right at 5:30 p.m., Jack parked his car, a subtle BMW sedan now, taking the place of the ostentatious Porsche, in front of the public school where Ethan attended. On that specific Wednesday, as he lingered at the school exit, Jack took note of the other families around him. Parents and guardians, all present, engaging in a familiar routine that remained a delightful new experience for him. His cell phone buzzed with work notifications, yet for the first time ever, the pressing emails could be put on hold. "Dear Uncle Jack." Ethan's enthusiastic voice resonated throughout the schoolyard. They had yet to reveal the truth to the boy, adhering to the guidance provided by the child psychologist Sarah had sought out. "Greetings, champion. What did you think of class today?" inquired Jack, effortlessly taking his son's backpack, a gesture that had become second nature. "The teacher allowed me to showcase my whale project to the entire class." Ethan started to speak, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Have you heard that blue whales hold the title for the largest animals to have ever roamed the earth? Larger than even dinosaurs." Jack grinned, taking in each word with sincere fascination. "Is that so? Share more as we head to the ice cream shop." The local ice cream shop had turned into their weekly tradition every Wednesday. It was a quaint, welcoming spot, a stark contrast to the elegant venues Jack was accustomed to visiting. Yet witnessing Ethan's delight in selecting his favorite flavors held more value than any Michelin-starred establishment. "2 scoops of chocolate with strawberry topping," Ethan said, his words flowing effortlessly, a familiar rhythm he had memorized long ago. "And a vanilla sundae for me," Jack added, watching his son swing his legs on the high chair, his feet just grazing the air below. "Uncle Jack," Ethan started, savoring the taste on his spoon, "what prevents you from inviting Aunt Emily to join us on our outings?" The inquiry took Jack off guard. This was the first occasion Ethan had brought up his former fiancée. "Sometimes, plans take unexpected turns, you know? It was like that time I desperately wanted a hamster, but Mum patiently explained that our apartment had a no-pets policy." Jack smiled at the naive analogy. "Perhaps something along those lines. At times, we believe we desire one thing, only to find that what truly holds significance is not what we envisioned." "So what holds significance for you?" inquired Ethan, his youthful insight occasionally unsettling. Jack experienced a tightness in his throat. "You are important," he replied with genuine warmth. "Your mother, my parents, enjoying moments like this with you." Jack's cell phone vibrated once more, this time receiving a message from Sarah. "Remember, Ethan has swimming class at 7 p.m. today. Are you done with the ice cream, my friend? We need to head to your swimming class." As they made their way to the gym, Ethan shared his aspirations of becoming a professional diver, eager to study the whales he admired so much. Jack paid close attention, posing questions and fostering that innocent aspiration, longing for someone to have done the same for his own dreams in his youth. At the gym, Sarah was already there, eagerly anticipating their arrival. She had just wrapped up her day at the school where she instructed, still clad in her educator's coat. "Mother!" With a burst of energy, Ethan dashed forward to embrace her. "I shared the story of the whales with Uncle Jack." "Is that so?" Sarah smiled, gently fixing her son's hair. "Did you mention the A you received on the project?" Jack's eyes sparkled with a sense of accomplishment. "A grade. That calls for a unique celebration this weekend. How about a trip to the aquarium?" inquired Ethan, leaping with enthusiasm. "Could you, please, Mom?" Sarah and Jack shared a glance filled with understanding. She gave a subtle nod, a faint smile gracing her lips. "If your mother agrees," Jack replied, "we can all go together on Saturday." "All together?" Ethan's eyes sparkled with delight. "Yes, all together," Sarah affirmed, surprising even herself with the ease of her reply. As Ethan dashed toward his swimming instructor, Jack and Sarah lingered, observing him as he moved further away. "He seems content," Sarah remarked gently. "Do you believe the moment has arrived?" Jack inquired, confident she would grasp the meaning behind his words. "Should I inform him?" Sarah let out a deep breath, lost in contemplation. "The psychologist mentioned that he's responding positively to your unwavering presence, perhaps following the aquarium outing." "No hurry," Jack reassured. "We'll do it your way at his pace." Laughter from children filled the air, drifting from the pool where Ethan was happily engaged with his classmates. Jack and Sarah stood together, observing their son, a new family taking shape, becoming more tangible with each passing day. Saturday broke bright and clear, ideal for the visit to the aquarium. Jack pulled up ahead of schedule at the unassuming apartment complex where Sarah and Ethan resided, sliding his BMW into a spot beside more humble vehicles. He glanced at the package resting on the passenger seat, a book about marine life he had picked up for Ethan, and smiled, recalling the vow to avoid extravagant gifts. As the doorbell chimed, the sound of Ethan's swift footsteps echoed from beyond the door. "I'm on my way, I'm on my way," the boy exclaimed with enthusiasm. Sarah swung the door open, clad in jeans and a straightforward t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a relaxed ponytail. Jack's heart raced a bit as memories flooded back of how she used to dress in their college days. "Good morning," she said, her smile tinged with a hint of shyness. "Come in, Ethan's almost ready." The apartment felt intimate and inviting. Images of Ethan throughout the years adorned the walls, accompanied by his artwork and school assignments. Jack experienced a sharp twinge of sorrow for the countless moments that had slipped through his fingers. "Hey, Uncle Jack!" exclaimed Ethan, emerging from the bedroom clad in a t-shirt adorned with dolphin prints. "My mom got it for me yesterday." "Wow, it looks amazing," Jack commended, presenting the package to Ethan. "I brought a little something for you." The boy's eyes sparkled with excitement as he ripped open the paper to unveil the book. "Mom, check this out. It's just like the one I spotted at the bookstore last week." Sarah cast a thankful glance at Jack. She recognized that the book came with a price, yet she valued it as an enlightening gift rather than something showy. The journey to the aquarium was alive with Ethan's enthusiastic voice, sharing intriguing facts from his latest book. Jack navigated the road, stealing brief looks in the rearview mirror at Sarah, who beamed at their son's excitement. At the aquarium, Ethan appeared to be lost in a realm of his own. His wide eyes mirrored the azure of the massive tanks as he dashed from one exhibit to the next, pulling Jack and Sarah in his wake. "Behold, the penguins!" he shouted, his face pressed against the glass of one of the exhibits. "They appear to be dressed in tuxedos." Jack knelt beside his son, sharing in the wonder. "Have you ever heard that penguins select a partner for eternity?" he remarked, stealing a fleeting look at Sarah. She felt a warm flush rise to her cheeks, turning her eyes away to concentrate on the penguins. "Ethan, would you like me to capture a photo of you alongside the penguins?" As Sarah readied herself for the photo, Jack took note of the father and son standing together, their gestures and expressions strikingly alike. "It felt as though I was gazing into a reflection that captured both the echoes of what once was and the whispers of what is yet to come." The afternoon whisked away in the company of sharks, rays, and a dolphin show that filled Ethan with pure joy. As they arrived at the acrylic tunnel that traversed a massive tank, the boy stood in awe, utterly captivated. "It's akin to immersing oneself in the depths of the sea," he whispered, gazing upward at the majestic swim of a whale shark. Jack and Sarah flanked Ethan, their shoulders brushing gently as they took in the unfolding scene. For a fleeting instant, they appeared to embody the ideal family they might have become. "I appreciate this," Sarah whispered to Jack, her voice barely rising above the soft chatter of the other visitors. "He's never been so happy." A lump formed in Jack's throat, emotions swirling within him. "I should be the one expressing my gratitude for this opportunity." As they exited the aquarium in the late afternoon, Ethan felt both drained and exhilarated. As he journeyed home, he drifted into slumber in the back seat, cradling his new book close to him. "I believe it's time," Sarah murmured gently, disrupting the cozy stillness that had enveloped the car. "To tell him." Jack tightened his grip on the steering wheel, a swirl of anxiety and relief flooding his senses. "Is that really the case?" She nodded, her gaze fixed on their slumbering son reflected in the rearview mirror. "He has a right to the truth, as do you. You've shown just how dedicated you are." As Jack parked in front of Sarah's building, he switched off the engine but remained still in the car. "What approach should we take for this?" "Let's tell him together," she proposed. "Tomorrow at lunch at your parents' house. Ethan loves going there and having family support might help." Jack nodded, sensing both the burden of duty and the buoyancy of hope in that moment. He gazed at Ethan, who was still lost in a tranquil slumber, and at Sarah, her eyes revealing a complex blend of feelings that eluded his full understanding. "Sarah," he started, uncertainty in his voice. "I understand I may not have the standing to request this, but do you believe there's a possibility for us to become a genuine family?" She gazed at him intently for a prolonged moment before responding. "Jack, we are already a family. Unique, intricate, yet a family. The rest, only time will tell." As he assisted in carrying the still sleeping Ethan to the apartment, Jack sensed that, for the first time in a long while, he was precisely where he was meant to be. Tomorrow would usher in fresh challenges, yet he felt prepared to confront them, no longer solitary but supported by his family beside him. Sunday broke with a blend of unease and anticipation lingering in the atmosphere. Jack got to his parents' house ahead of time, lending a hand with the lunch preparations. Grace was crafting Ethan's beloved dessert, chocolate pudding, as Robert seasoned the meat for the barbecue. "Son, do you truly feel prepared for this?" inquired Grace, observing the tightness in Jack's shoulders. "I really can't say, Mom," he said, raking his fingers through his hair. "However, Sarah has a valid point. Ethan deserves to know the truth." The doorbell rang, causing Jack's heart to race. As he opened the door, Ethan's radiant smile welcomed him warmly. "Hello, Uncle Jack. I brought my new book to show Grandpa Robert," the boy exclaimed, bursting in like a whirlwind. Sarah stepped in just after, holding a dish under a cover. "I prepared that salad your mother enjoys," she remarked, offering the dish to Jack. Their fingers brushed lightly, and for an instant, they remained there, gazing into each other's eyes, the gravity of their impending decision hanging thickly in the air. Lunch unfolded in a lively ambience, with Ethan taking center stage, enthusiastically sharing tales from the aquarium visit. Jack and Sarah shared anxious looks, fully aware that the moment was drawing near. Once dessert was finished and the atmosphere in the living room had settled, Sarah subtly acknowledged Jack with a small nod. The moment had arrived. "Ethan," Jack called, his voice revealing a hint of unease. "Would you mind if we had a conversation for a moment? Your mom and I have something important to discuss with you." The boy, picking up on the gravity of the moment, set his book aside and settled between them on the couch. Grace and Robert lingered quietly in the shadows, providing unspoken encouragement. "Do you recall our discussion about the various kinds of families?" Sarah started gently. Ethan gave a slight nod. "Yes, just like Julia in my class who has two mums." "Exactly," she continued. "Our family has its own unique qualities," Jack said, pausing to gather his thoughts. "Ethan, you understand how much I care for you, right?" "Certainly, Uncle Jack, I have a great fondness for you as well." "And if I were to say that I'm not precisely your uncle?" Jack sensed his voice waver. Ethan knitted his brow, a look of bewilderment crossing his face. "Could you clarify what you mean?" Sarah softly grasped her son's hand. "Darling, do you recall when you inquired about your father, and I told you he was distant, but that someday I would share the whole story?" The boy's eyes grew wide, darting back and forth between Jack and Sarah. "Is Uncle Jack my father?" The stillness that ensued felt as though it stretched on forever. Jack's heart raced, anxiety gripping him as he anticipated his son's response. "Indeed, Ethan," Sarah affirmed. "Jack is your father." Ethan fell silent for a moment, absorbing the revelation. Then, to everyone's astonishment, a broad grin illuminated his face. "I was certain of it," he exclaimed. "I wasn't aware, yet I sensed it. That's why we share the same interests and see the world through similar lenses." Jack felt tears welling up in his eyes. Are you upset with me for not being there earlier?" Ethan appeared to ponder for a moment, perhaps a touch melancholic. "Yet here you are, aren't you? We engage in so many wonderful activities together," Sarah said, her heart warmed by her son's growth. "Indeed, my dear, your father is present now, and his love for you is immense. Is it okay if I call you Dad now?" Ethan inquired, his gaze filled with anticipation as he turned to Jack. Jack's tears flowed uncontrollably. Absolutely you can, my boy. Nothing would bring me more joy. Ethan leaped into Jack's lap, wrapping his arms around him with a firm embrace. Father! I have a father. Grace and Robert drew near, their eyes glistening with emotion. And let's not overlook the grandparents. Robert chuckled, stepping into the embrace. As the family embraced this fresh start, Sarah took in the moment with a blend of relief and deep feeling. Jack reached out to her, welcoming her into the warm embrace of the family hug. In that instant, enveloped by the warmth of his newly created family, Jack realized that all the wealth he had gathered throughout the years paled in comparison to the precious gift he now embraced. The weeks that ensued after the revelation were filled with emotional highs and lows, marking a time of adjustment for all involved. Ethan, radiating the vibrant spirit of youth, welcomed the new reality with an infectious delight. To him, having a father felt like acquiring a unique champion in his life. Jack eagerly plunged into his new role. His priorities shifted significantly. Business meetings were rearranged to fit in school presentations, and his penthouse office acquired a unique corner filled with toys and children's books. On a Wednesday afternoon, Jack sat in his office, wrapping up an important video conference, when his cell phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Ethan is running a fever. I have to collect him from school, but I'm currently tied up in a meeting with the teachers. Are you able to leave? Without a moment's pause, Jack offered his apologies to the executives displayed on the screen, bringing the meeting to a sudden close. There's a family emergency, he said, swiftly powering off the computer. Upon reaching the school, he discovered Ethan in the infirmary, looking pale and silent, a sight that constricted his heart. Dad? Whispered the boy, reaching out for an embrace. Jack lifted him, sensing the warmth of the fever. It's all right, my friend. Let's go home. On the way, he paused at a pharmacy to purchase antipyretics and other medications suggested by the school nurse. Upon reaching Sarah's apartment, Jack discovered himself in an entirely unfamiliar scenario, tasked with the responsibility of caring for a sick child all by himself. As Ethan nestled comfortably on the couch, Jack set about preparing a cold compress for his forehead and attempted to make soup, guided by a recipe he discovered online. Sarah arrived a few hours later to discover the kitchen in disarray. Yet Ethan lay sleeping soundly, with Jack beside him, softly reading one of his favorite books. What is his condition? Is everything all right? She inquired, a hint of concern in her voice. The fever went down, Jack replied, his voice a blend of relief and pride. I succeeded in getting him to eat some soup as well. Sarah beamed, moved by Jack's commitment. I appreciate your kindness in looking after him. I understand you likely had significant obligations. Nothing is more crucial than our son, he gently interjected, the moment suspended around them, heavy with significance. In the days that ensued, as Ethan healed, Jack nearly took up residence in the apartment, resting on the couch to remain close, ready to assist the boy with anything he might require throughout the night. This unexpected closeness unearthed emotions that had been hidden away for far too long between Jack and Sarah. In the cozy kitchen, they enjoyed uncomplicated meals together, alternating in looking after Ethan, and in doing so, they unearthed a closeness that transcended mere co-parenting. After tucking Ethan in for the night, they lingered on the small balcony, engaged in conversation as the distant city lights twinkled like stars. You know, Jack began, gazing at the teacup cradled in his hands, taking care of Ethan these days has made me realize how much I've missed, not just watching him grow up, but us as well. Sarah glanced at him from the side, her expression a blend of caution and curiosity. Jack, no, I beg you, allow me to complete my thought, he implored softly. I recognize the grave errors I've committed, the pain I've caused you. Yet in recent times, witnessing you as a mother and reflecting on the remarkable woman you've always been, Sarah, I never stopped loving you. The silence that ensued was thick, laden with unexpressed possibilities and anxieties. I've been reflecting quite a bit as well, Sarah finally replied, her voice barely above a whisper, on the past, the present. Watching you with Ethan, so committed, so unlike the man who walked away from me, I must admit it stirred something within me. Jack sensed his heart quicken. With a sense of careful deliberation, he reached out, gently brushing against Sarah's fingers. "I'm not requesting anything," he stated. "I want you to understand that if there comes a day when you feel ready to explore the possibility of creating something together, as a true family, I'll be here, without any pressure, at your own pace." Sarah kept her hand steady. Instead, she laced her fingers with Jack's, gazing down at the sprawling city beneath them. "One step at a time," she whispered, a gentle smile gracing her lips. In the stillness of the night, while the city lay in slumber, two hearts, scarred by their histories, cautiously started to envision a shared tomorrow. In the adjacent room, Ethan slumbered soundly, oblivious to the transformations taking place, yet enveloped in the warmth of his parents' affection. The ensuing months unfolded with a tapestry of nuanced yet impactful transformations. Jack, resolute in his desire to remain a steady figure in Ethan and Sarah's lives, secured an apartment in the same neighborhood. While it couldn't rival his opulent penthouse, the closeness to his recently found family held a value that surpassed any luxury. A routine started to form effortlessly. Sharing breakfast before Ethan headed off to school turned into a cherished routine. Jack found delight in crafting sandwiches shaped like animals while enjoying Ethan's lively tales of his nighttime dreams. Sarah, once wary of the deepening bond, started to ease her guard little by little. Watching him engage with Ethan, assisting with homework and attending every school event, regardless of its size, revealed a facet of Jack she had never realized was there. On a Saturday afternoon, as Jack assisted Ethan in putting together a science project on the solar system, he offered a suggestion that took Sarah by surprise. "How do you feel about the idea of camping during the upcoming holiday?" he inquired, adhering paper stars to a styrofoam sphere symbolizing Jupiter. "I know a fantastic spot in the mountains where the sky is just right for stargazing." Ethan's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Is it truly possible? Please, Mom, say yes." Sarah paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. The prospect of dedicating whole days, every hour with Jack, was equally alluring and daunting. "I'm uncertain, sir. Camping isn't really my thing." "Come on, Mom," Ethan urged. "Father said he'll teach me how to make a campfire." The word, father, still stirred a rush of feelings in Sarah each time she heard it. She gazed at Jack, who wore a hopeful expression yet refrained from pressing further. "Very well," she conceded at last, unable to withstand her son's excitement. "But you," she said, pointing at Jack, "are responsible for all the equipment and food." The camping weekend came upon Sarah more quickly than she had anticipated. To her astonishment, Jack had anticipated every detail, from cozy tents to headlamps for Ethan, who was captivated by the notion of becoming a night explorer. As darkness enveloped the surroundings, Sarah found herself gathered around the campfire, a warm glow ignited by the collaborative efforts of Jack and Ethan. In that moment, she embraced a tranquility that had eluded her for far too long. Ethan slumbered peacefully in her lap, worn out from a day filled with hiking and play, as Jack tended to the fire, roasting marshmallows with care. "You know," Jack began softly, gazing at the stars, "when I was crafting my career, I believed that success would lead to happiness. Yet, being here with both of you brings to light the mistakes I made." Sarah studied him for a moment, seeing how the flickering firelight gently highlighted his features, reminding her of the young man she had fallen for back in college. "Isn't it true that people have the capacity to change?" she whispered, almost as if lost in her own thoughts. Jack nodded, his gaze locking onto hers. "They are capable. Sometimes they need to lose something precious to understand what really matters." That night, after tucking Ethan into bed in the tent, Jack and Sarah lingered in conversation, reconnecting in a way they hadn't in years. They exchanged their deepest fears, cherished dreams, and lingering regrets. The walls Sarah had constructed throughout the years started to fade away beneath the shimmering night sky. The following morning, while they collaborated on breakfast, their hands brushed against each other as they both reached for the same pan. Rather than parting ways, they remained close, hands clasped together, gazing at one another with a blend of longing and optimism. Ethan emerged from the tent, still groggy, and stumbled upon them in that tender moment. His face brightened with a grin. "You seem quite cheerful," he remarked with a hint of naivety. Sarah and Jack parted ways, a faint flush coloring their cheeks. Yet the significance of the moment lingered. A shift had occurred. A bridge was starting to take shape once more. As they drove back to the city, Ethan dozing peacefully in the back seat, Sarah decided to shatter the tranquil quietude. "Jack, I believe we're prepared to move forward." He shot her a quick glance, keeping his focus on the road, his heart pounding in his chest. "What step might that entail?" "A dinner," she responded, a faint smile gracing her lips. "Only the two of us. To discuss about us." Jack experienced a surge of joy enveloping him. "I'd love that," he replied, his voice thick with feeling. As the vehicle navigated the serpentine route leading back to the city, both sensed they were heading in the right direction. It certainly wouldn't be a walk in the park. There were many topics to explore and mend, yet the affection that had always lingered was starting to flourish once more, now more refined and resilient than ever. The long-awaited dinner unfolded on a Friday evening, a fortnight following the camping adventure. Ethan spent the night with his paternal grandparents, filled with anticipation for an evening of games and tales with Grandpa Robert. Jack selected a quiet eatery, hidden from the limelight and press, which still sometimes sought him out. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, with dim lighting and gentle melodies playing softly in the background. It struck the perfect balance for a meaningful discussion, free from the constraints of an overly romantic setting. Sarah made her entrance right on time, adorned in a dress that was both understated and graceful. Jack stood at the entrance, his heart pounding at the sight of her, a feeling that the years apart had failed to diminish. "You look beautiful," he said with genuine warmth, pulling out the chair for her to take a seat. "Thank you," Sarah said, her cheeks tinged with a hint of pink. "It has been quite a while since I ventured out in this manner." "Just me." The dialogue unfolded effortlessly as they savored the appetizer. Conversations flowed around Ethan, delving into Sarah's endeavors at the school and Jack's latest ventures. Only after the main course, when the waiter presented a bottle of wine that Jack had thoughtfully chosen, did they finally confront the topic that lingered in the air between them. "Sarah," Jack began, his tone a mix of gravity and warmth, "these past few months have been remarkable. Witnessing Ethan's growth and being involved in his journey, reconnecting with you once more. I recognize the significant errors I've made in the past, and I completely understand if you find it difficult to fully forgive me. I want you to know that I've changed, that I've come to understand what truly matters in life." Sarah watched him intently, her fingers gently swirling the wine glass in her hands. "Jack, I must admit, for quite some time I held on to a great deal of pain and bitterness. Raising Ethan on my own, witnessing his journey without a father figure was challenging. Yet, witnessing you in this moment, the commitment you show towards him, the efforts you've made, truly touched my heart." Jack extended his hand across the table, softly brushing against Sarah's fingers. To his astonishment and delight, she remained close. "What I mean to convey," she went on, "is that I'm open to the idea of trying again, to give us another opportunity. It won't be simple, there's much to reconstruct. Yet, for Ethan and perhaps for our own sake, I feel compelled to make the effort." Jack's eyes glimmered with restrained feeling. "Sarah, I assure you that I will exert every effort to earn this opportunity, to embody the man, the father, and the partner that you and Ethan truly deserve." They spent the remainder of the night engaged in conversation, sharing laughter, and occasionally shedding a tear, reflecting on the past while carefully envisioning a future together. As they exited the restaurant, fingers intertwined beneath the twinkling stars, an unmistakable sense of a new chapter unfolding enveloped them both. In the weeks that ensued, Jack and Sarah rekindled their romance, now infused with the wisdom and insight that time and life experiences had imparted. For Ethan, witnessing his parents together felt like a fantasy realized. On a bright Sunday, during a picnic in the park, an event that had turned into a cherished family ritual, Jack astonished both Sarah and Ethan. "I have an idea," he declared, while Ethan engaged in play with Max, who had now become a regular companion on all their adventures. "How do you feel about the idea of us cohabiting?" Ethan nearly let his sandwich slip from his hands, brimming with excitement. "Is that so? Is it truly like a genuine family?" Sarah regarded Jack, her gaze a blend of astonishment and wariness. "Is that really the case?" "It's a significant milestone," Jack agreed, grasping her hand firmly. "I exist. I wish to cherish every moment with you. We can search for a new home, a space that belongs to us as we embark on this new chapter together." Sarah beamed, tears of joy welling in her eyes. "I believe that would be wonderful for us. Would we not, Ethan?" The boy leaped with delight and embraced them both warmly. Max barked with enthusiasm, as if he grasped the significance of the occasion. Under the blazing midday sun, enveloped by Ethan's joyful laughter and Max's warm affection, Jack and Sarah affirmed their bond with a gentle kiss. It represented a profound transformation. It was the vision of a radiant tomorrow, constructed upon the pillars of affection, reconciliation, and the kinship they were always meant to embody. It has been 2 years since that picnic in the park when Jack suggested they share a life together. The Thompson family's life had undergone a profound transformation, unfolding in ways they could never have anticipated. The house they selected was both roomy and inviting, nestled in a serene neighborhood abundant with lush greenery. Ethan, at the age of 8, enjoyed a room adorned with captivating marine themes. His affection for the ocean had deepened with the passage of time. This Saturday morning, the house buzzed with a whirlwind of activity. As the moment approached, attendees began to gather for a truly momentous event, the wedding of Jack and Sarah. This wedding was a far cry from the extravagant affair Jack had envisioned years prior. It was a cozy gathering, shared with only the closest family and friends. The backyard of the house had become a whimsical paradise, adorned with wildflowers and twinkling lights draped from the trees. In the master bedroom, Sarah refined her simple yet elegant dress, with her mother and Grace by her side, the latter unable to hold back tears of joy. "Who could have imagined?" Sarah's mother remarked. "Following all that you've experienced." Sarah beamed, gazing at her reflection in the mirror. What she beheld was not merely the image of a bride, but a woman who had faced challenges, evolved, and ultimately discovered her true joy. A soft rap on the door broke the silence of her contemplation. "May I enter?" Ethan's voice echoed from the other side. As the door swung open, the boy stepped inside, looking sharp in his ring-bearer suit, a small box held carefully in his hands. Dad handed the box to Sarah, saying, "Please deliver this." Within lay a fragile pearl necklace accompanied by a note. "In the spirit of fresh starts and cherished commitments, my love for you, Jack, remains unwavering." Outside, Jack stood with bated breath beneath the floral arch, his heart racing with anticipation. Robert, serving as his best man, offered a reassuring pat on his back. "Take it easy, my boy. This is the moment you have both anticipated for such a long time." Gentle melodies filled the air, capturing the attention of every guest in the room. Ethan was the first to arrive, holding the rings and beaming with joy. Suddenly, Sarah emerged. Jack experienced a fleeting pause in his heartbeat. There she stood, the woman he had abandoned years prior, the mother of his offspring, the one who had offered him a renewed opportunity in life. His eyes brimmed with tears of joy and thankfulness. The ceremony was short yet filled with deep emotion. The moment they exchanged vows, tears glistened in the eyes of every guest present. "Sarah," Jack began, his voice thick with emotion, "long ago, I committed the gravest error of my existence by walking away from you. Yet destiny, in its boundless insight, bestowed upon us an opportunity anew. I vowed to dedicate each day of my life to loving you, honoring you, and being the man that you and Ethan truly deserve." With tears glistening in her eyes, Sarah replied, "Jack, our path has been fraught with challenges, yet each hurdle has led us to this moment. You are more than just the father of my child. You are my closest companion, my partner, and my beloved. I vow to stand with you through every joy and challenge, nurturing our family with compassion and care." As the officiant proclaimed them husband and wife, Ethan was the first to dash forward, enveloping them in a warm embrace that encapsulated all they had strived for. The celebration that ensued was filled with joy and a sense of ease. Jack and Sarah shared their inaugural dance as a couple, swaying to the melody of "The Way You Look Tonight," the very tune that had accompanied their first encounter in college. As the guests reveled in their merriment, Jack seized a fleeting opportunity to share a private moment with Ethan. "How are you holding up, champ?" he inquired, bending low to meet his son's gaze. Ethan beamed, his eyes mirroring his father's, radiating joy. "Joyful, father, extremely joyful. At last, we've become a true family, haven't we?" Jack embraced his son with warmth. "We have always been, my son, but now it is finished." Sarah approached, wrapping her arms around both of them in a warm embrace. For a fleeting moment, the three of them lingered, relishing the exquisite beauty of that instant. As darkness enveloped the surroundings and the final visitors departed, Jack, Sarah, and Ethan settled onto the porch of their home, gazing up at the twinkling stars above. Max, aged yet ever loyal, rested at their feet. "Have you ever considered that the stars we gaze upon today may have perished millions of years ago?" Ethan remarked, perpetually enthusiastic about imparting his insights. Jack grinned, sharing a meaningful glance with Sarah. "Indeed, my boy, but let me share something with you. Some stars, even after all this time, radiate with an intensity that surpasses all expectations." 10 years later, the morning sun streamed through the curtains of Ethan's room, now 18 years old, casting light on walls still adorned with posters of marine creatures and constellations. The young man shifted beneath the covers, battling against the pull of morning's light. "Ethan," Sarah called from downstairs, "it seems you might miss the graduation ceremony." With a weary sigh, Ethan finally rose, raking his fingers through his dark hair, strikingly reminiscent of Jack's. He gazed at his reflection in the mirror, making a final adjustment to his school uniform tie. In the kitchen, he discovered a scene that felt both familiar and comforting. Sarah, her brown hair interspersed with a few gray strands, was in the midst of preparing pancakes. Jack, reflecting the inevitable march of time, sat at the table, his focus split between the digital newspaper and the lively antics of two 5-year-old twin girls. "Good morning, sleepyhead," Jack teased, glancing upward. "Are you prepared for the momentous occasion?" Ethan grinned, reaching for a pancake, give or take. It's strange to realize that today marks the end of the school year. The twins, Olivia and Emma, competed for their older brother's affection. "Ethan, are you truly heading off to college?" inquired Olivia, her large eyes brimming with worry. "I am," he replied, playfully ruffling his sister's hair. "Rest assured, I will always return for a visit, I promise." The morning meal unfolded with the familiar blend of disorder and warmth that defined the Thompson family's start to the day. As Ethan assisted in clearing the table, he caught sight of his parents sharing subtle, meaningful glances. "What is it exactly?" he inquired with a hint of skepticism. Sarah beamed. "A delightful surprise awaits you. However, it will be after the graduation." The graduation ceremony was filled with emotion. Ethan, in his role as class valedictorian, delivered a heartfelt speech reflecting on personal growth, the importance of second chances, and the profound impact of familial love. In the front rows, Jack and Sarah were unable to hold back their tears of pride. Following the ceremony, as classmates exchanged farewells and discussed their summer plans, the Thompson family convened in the school parking lot. "What's the unexpected twist?" Ethan inquired, filled with anticipation. Jack beamed as he passed an envelope to his son. "Unveil it." Within the confines of the envelope, Ethan discovered plane tickets accompanied by a meticulously crafted itinerary. His eyes grew large with surprise as he took in the destination. "Galapagos. Are you really sending me to the Galapagos?" he inquired, filled with disbelief. "Not quite," Sarah responded with a smile. "Everyone is joining us." A journey with family before embarking on your college adventure. Ethan stood in silence, enveloping his parents in a warm embrace. The twins leaped with delight, their comprehension of the term Galapagos still a mystery to them. 2 weeks later, the Thompson family stepped onto the islands that had sparked the imagination of Charles Darwin. For Ethan, who envisioned a future as a marine biologist, it felt as though he had entered a realm of pure bliss. While wandering through the islands, taking in the sights of marine iguanas, giant tortoises, and a remarkable variety of birds, Ethan pondered his own path. Similar to the species that have evolved and adapted over millions of years, his family had undergone remarkable transformations as well. One afternoon, as he swam alongside the playful sea lions, Ethan caught sight of his parents watching him. Jack and Sarah, hand in hand, radiated the same affection that marked the beginning of their journey together. The twins, buoyed by their inflatable floats, erupted in gleeful shouts each time a sea lion glided by them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the beach, Jack beckoned Ethan for a moment of solitude away from the others. "Son," he started, reflecting on all we've experienced together, "there's a lesson I want you to hold close to your heart." Ethan gazed at his father, filled with curiosity. "Life resembles these islands," Jack went on, motioning to the scenery surrounding them. "Brimming with obstacles and unforeseen twists. There will be moments when you may feel adrift, much like I did many years back. Yet, remaining authentic to oneself and prioritizing love and family above all will guide you," Ethan acknowledged, absorbing the significance of his father's message. "How did you discover yours?" Jack beamed as he watched Sarah and the twins crafting sandcastles further down the shore. "I came to understand that genuine success lies not in our personal accomplishments, but in the contributions we make to the lives of others. You and your mother imparted that lesson to me." Father and son stood in quietude for a moment, gazing at the horizon where the sun dipped into the ocean. "Dad," Ethan finally expressed his gratitude. "Thank you. For all things. For returning. In defense of our family." Jack embraced his son, tears glistening in their eyes. "No, my dear, it is I who should express my gratitude to you. Your kindness and support have granted me an opportunity one never earned. You rescued me." As they strolled back to reunite with the family, Ethan was enveloped in a profound sense of appreciation for the remarkable journey that had led him to this moment. To the guardians who transformed their missteps into a masterpiece of growth and resilience. And for the younger sisters who embodied the rekindled affection of their parents. The future, much like the Galapagos Islands, brimmed with a myriad of evolutionary possibilities. Ethan understood that regardless of what challenges lay ahead, he would forever be inspired by the example set by his parents. A vibrant proof that genuine love, when cared for, can triumph over any challenge. As darkness descended upon the Galapagos, wrapping the Thompson family in its celestial embrace, Ethan beamed. This journey marked not merely a conclusion, but the dawn of something fresh. A gentle nudge that every day presents a chance to grow, to embrace love, and to uncover the layers of who we are. Thus, beneath the boundless expanse of the Galapagos sky, a family that had weathered stormy waters discovered their sanctuary, firmly anchored in the love they had nurtured and the wisdom they had gained throughout their journey.